Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Third-person POV. After such an exciting first day, Class 1A were looking forward to the next day. And boy were they disappointed. Lecture after lecture, lesson after lesson, it felt never-ending. It felt as if they were in some type of purgatory. That was, until their last lesson of the day, 1A homeroom. As everyone was recovering from their last lecture on the historical significance of comic book heroes on the modern hero, trying not to disturb Izawa, who was asleep, as well as discussing their potential majors, Jiro heard something. No freaking way, she exclaimed in surprise, catching everyone's attention. What is his Jiro? Mina asked curiously. Hold on, I hear him too, Shoji stated with wide eyes. Him who dude? Kaminari asked. Before any answers could be given, the answer burst through the door. I am. Standing in the doorway like a normal person, All Might bellows whilst hanging in the doorway in the most awkward way possible. Wait, All Might is going to be teaching us heroics? That's so manly, Kirishima cried out. Yeah man, he's even wearing his Silver Age costume. Kaminari joined in excitedly. Great. Just great. Izuku thought to himself, having not forgiven the hero for what he said to him. I am here to teach foundational heroics. In this class, we will be pushing all of you to your limits so that you can learn the basics of being a hero. We'll be here after lunch every day, sometimes only with me, while other times we'll have another of your teachers assisting. This class also has the most units per semester. So slacking off will see you quickly losing your spot in the hero course. The number 1 hero warned the class. The blonde man held a card in his hand. Upon the card was written the phrase, combat training, which immediately caused a certain explosive blonde to perk up with a toothy grin. However, before the class starts, you'll be needing these, All Might states as he reveals a small remote and pushes a button. Several panels exited from the wall on the far side of the room. Each panel contained 5 metal cases labeled from 1 to 20, matching the students' seating numbers. Costumes. The class all cried out at once, excluding the obvious ones who didn't. I've always agreed with the saying, clothes make the man, but in this case it's, the costume makes the hero. All Might stated, getting a chuckle out of Izuku as he remembered the old rumors from his old world about Watchdog Man, and how he never removed his dog costume. Now my young wards, don your heroic threads, and meet me at Gamma Field. All Might bellowed as he vanished in the blink of an eye. The class immediately collected their costumes and began making their ways towards the changing rooms. Gamma Field. Izuku was the first to arrive at the field observation room, and he kinda wished he stayed back to avoid the awkward tension with teacher. His costume wasn't anything special, just the same outfit he wore when he took the entrance exam, with a few differences. The shirt was now dark green instead of black. He wore a belt of many things that had numerous pouches contains field supplies, and his flats now had metal soles to enhance kicking power. When he arrived, he saw All Might was the only person in the room. The tension between them was at awkward levels. However, it was the hero that broke it first. It's nice to see that you made it into UA, young Midoriya, All Might states, trying to start a conversation. Izuku ignored him. Listen, when this class is over, I want to talk to you about what I said. I want to make things right and avoid this, frankly, crushing tension between us. All Might asked, hoping to right his wrongs. Okay, Izuku replied, causing the hero to smile gently. Just then, everyone else began entering the room. They all had costumes that fit their abilities. However, some made Izuku question his classmates' intelligence. Practically none of them had any type of armor on. Helmomo was half naked and Hagakure was naked except for some gloves and boots. None of them had weapons to aid their abilities other than Bakugo, and none of them had any field supplies. Looks like I'll be taking a lot of notes today, Izuku thought to himself as All Might began to explain the exercise. He explained how the exercise would be 2 versus 2 matches between a villain team held up in a mock building guarding a nuclear device, and a hero team who start outside the building. Both teams would have 10 minutes to concoct a strategy. The matches would end either when either side was defeated or if the heroes managed to touch nuclear device. Sue then asked how teams would be decided, and All Might stated it would be through name polls. This caused Ida to ask why it was random and not assigned. Izuku then answers for the hero, stating that heroes didn't always get to choose their allies. Ida found the answer acceptable and apologized for interrupting. The name-pulling then began. Teams are the same as in canon. When Ochako was paired up with Izuku, she beamed at him kindly, and he returned with his own sunny smile. Meanwhile, Bakugo, who's been paired with Ida, also smiled, albeit sadistically, as his mind was flooded with violent thoughts. Izuku caught this grin and gave his classmate a smug smile. It was once again time to school this blonde blasting in combat training grounds. "So, Midoriya, you got a plan?" Ochako asked as the two of them studied the given map of the villain base. "Yes, actually. See, Bakugo's been challenging me to fights since we were 4 years old and holds a grudge. He'll be coming after me exclusively. I plan to use that tunnel vision to let you slip past and locate Ito with bomb. I'll best Bakugo and back you up as soon as I can. That sound all right with you?" Izuku explains. "Hell yeah, let's crush this test." Ochako replied with significant enthusiasm. "Oh, by the way, Uraraka, are those boots comfortable?" Izuku asked, referring to her heeled boots. "Not really. The costume as a whole is fine, if a bit too skin-tight. But these boots just aren't my style." "Why'd you ask?" she replied as Izuku mentally noted her opinion for later. "No matter. Just something for later. Anyway, we should probably get ready. We've got 30 seconds until we're allowed to enter," he replied. As soon as the two of them entered, Izuku's senses picked Bakugo's explosions. He guessed they make up 3 flights of stairs before the blonde intercepted them. He relayed this information to Uraraka, and they pressed on. Then suddenly, right on schedule, as they turned a corner, kaboom! A wild Bakugo appeared. Thankfully for our heroes, Izuku predicted the attack and moved himself and Uraraka out the way in advance, meaning the surprise attack completely missed. "Don't dodge, Deku. Take the beating you deserve, you quirkless F," Bakugo shouted. Izuku said nothing in reply. Instead, he gestured to Uraraka to go round the blonde and find Ida. And much in the same way he predicted, Bakugo tunneled in on him, letting Uraraka slip past completely undetected. He then noticed that Bakugo was still talking. "I won't hurt enough that the match is called off, but just under that," the blonde threatened. "Really? 'Cause the last time I checked, for as long as we've known each other, you've never managed to beat me," Izuku replied calmly, luring his opponent in a trap. I'm gonna kill you," Bakugo yelled, spitting everywhere as he used his explosions to launch himself at Izuku. The blonde initially attempted to use a fake-out attack by blasting forward, only to change direction and try to attack from behind, only for Izuku to causally dodge the onslaught of explosions. The blonde then attempted a full frontal assault, letting off large explosions which enveloped Izuku. Bakugo grinned maliciously at his perceived victory. However, as the smoke cleared, it was revealed that not only was Izuku completely unharmed, but he had begun his counterattack. He'd used a variant of his water stream rock-smashing fist to gather the energy of the explosions around his fist by creating a vortex. He then shot towards the blonde faster than the eye could see and punched him in the face with his own explosive attack. Bakugo was sent flying into a stone pillar. However, he did manage to recover and stand back up rather injured. "If that's the best attack you've got, Bakugo, then I have woefully overestimated the strength of your quirk," Izuku taunted as he walked forward. "You ain't seen nothing yet, Deku. Now die," Bakugo replied as he launched into another attack. Observation deck. Meanwhile, the class was spectating the fight, and they were floored by how Izuku had total control over it. "What kind of martial arts are those? They're insane," Ojiro asks, a little jealous of Midoriya's technique. "I don't know, dude, but they are super manly," Kirishima responds as they watch Izuku cut through stone without touching it. "How the hell did he do that? He can cut things without touching them. Are we sure this guy's quirkless?" Mineta asks, utterly terrified of his classmate. From the way the space around him appears to warp, it seems as though he's using the speed of his wrist rotation to bend the wind to create a razor-sharp spiral to cut things. Through how he can do that without a quirk is beyond my knowledge. Yaoyorozu answers, hoping to ask Midoriya about it later. As the students discuss their classmates' anomalous abilities, All Might too watched with awe. "Why was I such a fool? With his technique alongside the power of One for All, I can't think of anything that could stop him. Damn it, Tashinori, why'd you have to go say those stupid, hypocritical things? Now I've lost a perfect candidate to be my successor. I just hope he can forgive me." All Might thinks to himself as he watches young Midoriya throw young Bakugo around like a ragdoll. His techniques are truly impressive and alien, but my ice should easily be able to overwhelm them. Todoroki thought to himself as he analyzed his future competition. Hey guys, why is Bakugo laughing? Hagakure asked, pointing at the blonde. Training grounds. Ah, I've won Deku. Bakugo declares through a swollen jaw. And how's that? You've yet to land a hit on me. Your left eye is swollen shut, and I've busted 7 of your ribs. That sounds like you've lost to me. Izuku replies casually, having already figured out the blonde's plan. I know you know how my quirk works, you stalker, so I'm gonna assume what these gauntlets are for. Bakugo states. Their purpose is to store your explosive sweat for larger and more devastating attacks. Yeah, I figured that out as soon as I saw them. Izuku replied confidently, pissing off the blonde. Shut up, you quirkless bestiardi, and die. Bakugo yelled as he tried his right gauntlet and prepared to fire. Young Bakugo, that attack might kill him. All Might shouted over the intercom, trying to plead with the blonde's sense of right. Unfortunately, Bakugo had none to use. He'll be fine if he dodges. Bakugo replies as he took aim and hooked his finger round the gauntlet's release pin. Midoriya, I've found Ida. He's 3 floors up in the east corner of the building, but he spotted me. Uraraka chimed in over the communication devices they'd been given. Good work, partner. Keep him there and get clear. I'm sending a payload. Izuku replied as he focused on Bakugo. Die? He screamed. But before he could pull the pin, Izuku was suddenly crouched in front of him. In a panic, he aimed the gauntlet down, completely forgetting how close the explosion's range was to him now. Shrakakum. A truly tremendous explosion was launched at Izuku, but he countered. He mustered all his strength and skill and parried the attack's momentum, reversing it back at Bakugo. The explosion launched the blonde through 3 floors and into the bomb room, immediately knocking him unconscious and giving both Ochako and Ida a real scare. However, Ochako recovered quicker than Ida. Unfortunate, she was on the other side of the room from the bomb, and he was faster than her. Her only choice was to risk is all and run for it. So she did. Ochako took sprinting towards the bomb, and Ida began to intercept. However, just before he could tackle her, a wave of terror enveloped him, similar to how he felt when he tried to talk to Midoriya at the entrance exam. This feeling caused him falter and let Ochako slip past him and touch the bomb. Hero team wins. All Might bellowed over the intercom. Observation deck. When the teams, sans Bakugo, who was taken to medical, returned to the observation deck, they were congratulated by their classmates and complimented on their skills, especially by Kirishima, whose enthusiasm seemed to be infinite. All Might then asked the class who the match's MVP was, and Momo raised her hand first. She explained that it was Midoriya, as he came up with the plan, held off Bakugo, and gave Uraraka an opening to win the match. No one fought her on this, and it was articulated better than All Might could ever, so he began to move on until someone piped up. Hey Midoriya, what kind of martial arts were those? They looked crazy. Mina asked, causing everyone to look at Izuku. Yeah man, they looked awesome. What did you call them? Kirishima asked enthusiastically. Yup, infinite. Izuku then put on his smug face and replied. Well, I have access to a bevy of techniques, but the ones you saw were my water stream rock smashing fist and whirlwind iron cutting fist. He replied as everyone marveled at the names. Those are the sickest names I've ever heard, Green. Jiro stated, and everyone agreed. But how do they work? From what I saw, you can somehow deflect and redirect attacks as well as cut things suing the wind. But how do you do that without a quirk? Yaoyorozu asked curiously. It's rather simple, really. He replied as everyone moved in to listen. It's a secret, he stated, causing Mina to boo him. All right, that wasn't the answer you wanted. But if you do want to know, join me after the exercise and I'll talk. Izuku replied with an ominous smile. After that, things moved along nicely. The next match was Todoroki and Shoji versus Ojiro and Hagakure. When the match started, Izuku produced a notebook seemingly from thin air. When asked about it, he insisted it had been on his person the whole time. The matches got off to a rough start, with Todoroki freezing the entire building instantly, nabbing an immediate win, but was harshly criticized afterwards, but he didn't seem to care, like it didn't matter. Do something. Beyond that, however, all the matches went smoothly, and soon the exercise was over and the class was dismissed. Afterwards, All Might again had sped off at incredible speeds. Izuku then told his classmates that he had something to do and that if they wanted to learn about his martial arts, then they should wait for him at the main gate. All Might's office. After getting changed back into his university uniform, Izuku found his way to All Might's office with some assistance from Cementos. When he entered, he saw All Might sitting at a desk waiting for him. As he looked around, the room was rather Spartan. It showed how All Might had only just become teacher at the school, in fact the only thing in there that looked to belong to the hero was a picture of himself in his first costume. "Ah, young Midoriya, you're here. Please close the door behind you. I have something important to talk to you about," All Might stated as he erupted in steam, remaking his true form, and began to cough. "You okay?" Izuku asked. "I'm all right, young Midoriya. Just not the spring chicken I used to be. But my failing health isn't what I wanted to talk to you about. It's about me failing you," he replied, getting Izuku's attention. The hero then rose from his desk and approached the young man, before assuming the Dajiza position. "I'm sorry," he stated, catching Izuku off guard. "I'm sorry for what I said to you that day by the outflow pipe. It was short-sighted and hypocritical of me to say those things to you. You don't have to forgive me. Just know that I am truly sorry," Yagi declared as he hoped for a positive answer, but fully prepared to be rejected. This whole situation had thrown Izuku through a loop. The #1 hero and symbol of peace was currently bowing before him, begging his forgiveness. But there was one word in his confession that didn't make sense to him. Hypocritical. Why were his words hypocritical? "All Might. Yagi, please stand up. You shouldn't need doing things like this. What would the press say?" Izuku expressed as pulled the man to his feet. "They'd properly assume you were my son or something," Yagi replied in a joking tone and a smile. "True. But hey, what did you mean by your words being hypocritical?" Izuku asked, casing Yagi to stare into space before collecting himself. "Young Midoriya, let me tell you a story of two brothers," Yagi stated as he prepared to tell the story. The next few minutes of Izuku's life were intense and unbelievable. Somehow even more unbelievable than him being reincarnated by God from his former life as a hero hunter. Yagi told him a story. He told him of two brothers at the dawn of quirks, how the younger was powerless, but the older brother had a quick let him steal and gift abilities to others' will, and how the older brother became a king of crime and the lord of villainy. How the younger brother opposed his older brother but had no power to do so, and that's in pity the older brother had gifted his sibling a stockpile ability, and that it had merged with the younger brother's true transfer ability that had been hidden away, which should become an ability called One for All. This quirk had one goal: to destroy the older brother, who are taking the name of his quirk All for One, his villainous moniker. It took countless sacrifices, another 8 generations of heroes. There was over nearly 2 centuries to do it, but last All Might himself had finally done it. He'd killed all the ones with his bare hands, with the villain's viscous gray matter of seeping through his fingers, and the villain's flattened skull at the cost of the hero's intestinal tract and left lung. By the end of the story, Izuku was floored. He'd known that quirks could be all toyed, but this was on a whole other level. "So that's why you've been slowing down recently. Your body is so injured that it can't withstand this OFA quirk for long," Izuku blurted out. "Indeed, which is why I've recently began looking a successor. AFO may be gone now, but there will always be more men like him, monsters and fools who want to rule the world," Yagi replied as he looked Izuku in the yes, and Izuku caught on. "You want me to inherit your power? Why? And I still don't see how this makes you a hypocrite," Izuku asked, bewildered. "Because, young Midoriya, I too was quirkless before my MS-Tar offered me the power of Leffe. She took a chance with me as I should have with you when we met, but I was blinded by my fear and anxiety. As for why I'm offering you the power, well, to be honest, it's because of your skill and that impossible strength of yours. In combination with OFA, you'd surpass me in days," Yagi explained, hoping the young man would accept. "I'm flattered, Yagi, I really am. But I'll have to decline," Izuku replied, confusing Yagi. "May I ask why?" Yagi asked. "I plan to become a symbol of hope for people like me, without quirks and those with weak quirks, and I can't in good conscience preach that anyone can be a strong or be a hero with or without a quirk, if I'm secretly using your weird super quirk," Izuku replied honestly. "I understand completely, young Midoriya. It seems as though fate has other plans for you, and even though you rejected my power, I'll still support that dream of yours as much as I can," Yagi replied vigorously. "Thanks, Yagi-sensei. And hey, even though I'm not taking the power, that doesn't mean I can't help you find and train your successor," Izuku responded kindly. "That would be much appreciated, my boy. Now hurry along. Your friends are surely waiting for you at the gate. Yagi states, causing Izuku to WHP his head towards the clock and dash off. Oh, to be young like that again. Yagi thought to himself as he relaxed. UA gate. As Izuku walked to the front gate, he was deep in thought as he mentally relived the experience he'd just had. Hey Midoriya, you good? What took you so long? A familiar voice calls out, snapping him to attention. It was Kirishima, and he wasn't alone. Along with him was Ida, Yaoyorozu, Jiro, Mineta, Ojiro, and Yururika. Huh. Oh yeah. Present Mike just wanted me explain something to him about someone I wrote during his lecture. Izuku replied with a smile as he approached them. Hope you guys weren't waiting too long. He states. Nah, just over 10 minutes. Not too long, Green. Jiro replied. So, you gonna tell us about those cool martial arts of yours? Ojiro asked, hoping to learn more about his techniques. I will, however, not here. I've got a secret spot I train in. If you guys don't need to be anywhere right now, I'll take you there. He replies, confusing his friends. Where is this secret spot you speak of, Midoriya? Ida asked stiffly. About 15 kilometers in that direction. Don't worry, I want you run it like me. We'll take public transport. Izuku replied, causing Kirishima to double take. You run 15 kilometers to get home? He asked. 10 kilometers actually. The other 5 are from my house to the location. Izuku cleared up. That's so freaking manly. Kirishima cried out as they began their walk to the train station. Secret spot. After a short train ride and a 3-kilometer walk, the group all found themselves in Izuku's secret spot in the forest. His training ground was nothing special, just a few apparatus made of carved wood in a clearing. So this is where you train those techniques? Ojiro asked as he saw several trees that looked to have had circles carved through them. Yup. Izuku replied. All right, Green, we're here, so spill. How the hell do those martial arts work? Jiro demanded. All right then, if you insist. My martial arts were taught to me by my old Mstr Bang, who's sadly no longer with us, and they're specifically made to be anti-human. Izuku explained, scoring his friends with the phrase, anti-human. Anti-human martial arts. That sounds incredibly dangerous, Yaoyorozu points out, with Ida agreeing wholeheartedly. They are, which is why only a select few know of their existence. Would you like a demonstration? Izuku replied, offering a first-hand look at his abilities. What do you mean by demonstration, Midoriya? Ochiko asked trepidatiously. All of you against me. With your quirks. Izuku states, hawking his entourage. Why are you making this offer, dude? Mineta asked, terrified of the potential outcome. From what I observed in the battle trial, only half of you know the basics of fighting. And whether you plan to be a rescue hero, a detective hero, an underground hero, and especially a frontline hero, you need to know how to fight beyond just haymakers and kicks. Izuku explains, somewhat brushing their egos. All right, bro, you're on. Kirishima replies, accepting the challenge as he hardens up. What about the rest of you? You guys in? Izuku asks as the group all look at one another and nod. We accept your challenge, Midoriya. Momo replies as she produces a quarterstaff. The others all spread out and surround him on every side. Huh. This reminds me of Hen I fought Death Gatling and his group in the forest. Izuku thought to himself as the group move in for the attack. The fight, as it were, did not last long. Izuku dodged all of Mineta's ball and bested him with a single kick. He deflected Ida's kick into Kirishima, who ate dirt. He parried Momo's staff swings with ease and snapped the it before gut-shot punching her. He caught Yururika as she attempted to remove his gravity and threw her into Jiro, taking them both out. Having recovered, Kirishima tired again alongside Ojiro, and they tried to double-team him, but he redirected their attacks at one another before impacting them both in the chest. The whole fight took 57 seconds. See what I mean? Izuku states as his friends recover from the whooping he just gave them. Yeah, we understood you were strong day one. Doesn't mean you to had prove it so. Painfully. Jiro replied as he nursed her chest and ego. Midoriya, whilst lessons in humility are necessary to be a hero, I don't fully understand why you had to be so rough. Ida asked as he helped Kirishima to his feet. I was rough so I could properly gauge your guys' abilities. It let me see what you were capable of. He replied. Okay, why did you need your know that then? Momo asked as she produced basic medical supplies to aid her friends. So I can help you guys train. He relied with smile. What? They asked simultaneously. Listen, things are going to change soon, and they're going to get bad, call it a hunch, but we need heroes capable of actually fighting, not just posing for the camera. You gigs wanted to learn about my martial arts. What better way than to actually learn how to use them? So what did you say? Izuku explained vaguely. The group then all looked at one another again before turning back to Izuku, as Uraraka stepped forward. We're in. She replied valiantly as they all smiled at him. Things were about to get a whole lot more interesting around UA Gate. The day after the battle trials, Class 1A were on their way to homeroom. When they reached the gates, however, they were accosted by countless media types. The media shoved cameras and microphones in their faces, all asking the same questions about All Might and whether or not he was a good teacher. Some students answered whilst others just tried to push their way through the crowd of terrible combovers and cheap perfume. Meanwhile, however, Izuku was focused on something else. Someone in the crowd was giving off an incredible amount of killing intent, so much so that Izuku thought they'd go on a killing spree any second now. So he decided to intervene. Elsewhere in the crowd, Tomura Shigaraki had been given a stealth mission, and he hated stealth missions. However, Sensei told him it was good to know how to stick to the shadows, something about embedding fear into a populace. But that didn't take away from the fact that he hated going missions like this. They never gave enough EXP to warrant them, especially this one. He hated heroes, all pompous and cheery, selfish and arrogant, all without a care in the world because of him. All Might. Oh, how he loathed the blonde buffoon, his constant posturing, his cheery demeanor, and that rancid permanent smile. It all made him sick. But right now he had a job to do, decay the gates to cause a commotion which would let Kurogiri sneak him in and grab the student timetables. He watched as the students all entered their bastion of filth. He began to move forward to get into position for later, only to feel someone grasp his shoulder. Hey buddy, Izuku said as he gripped Shigaraki's shoulder like a vice. Who the hell is this loser? And how come I didn't hear him approaching me? Tomura thought to himself. You know, I have sense for people like you. The type that just want to kill. That's what you want to do, right? Go on a murderous rampage, killing everyone in your path. The reporters, the students, the teachers, ain't that right? Izuku states as he begins emitting his own killing intent solely concentrated on Shigaraki. Shigaraki in response froze up. This guy was different from the rest. He could feel it. It felt like he was a meaningless bug in this guy's world, only still breathing because this guy let him. All Tomura could do was nod in abject terror. Then go home and play whatever violent video game you like to get that out of your system. And if I ever see you back here with that kind of aura, I'll break every bone in your body. You got that? Izuku explains in an innocent tone directly into Tomura's ear as his killing intent intensifies. Tomura again just nodded and Izuku left. Immediately he ran for the nearest alleyway and pulled out a severed hand and placed it on his face to calm down. Holy SHD, holy SHD, holy SHD. What the F was that all about? I can't stop shaking, I can't stop sweating. What the F was with that guy's aura? Tomura mental screamed as he tried to stop hyperventilating. That wasn't just another worthless hero student. That was a Fing 25-man raid boss. Tomura thought his heart rate finally began to relax. He peered beyond the alleyway and watched that guy enter UA with his friends. Tomura was frightened, scratch that. He was scared out of his Fing mind right now, but her has a job to do, and he intended to get it done. He'd just have to be a sneakier about it. 1A homeroom. As homeroom began, the students took their seats, and Eraser slugged his way into the room. There was a strange feeling in the air, like things were about to go wrong in some unforeseen way. After Eraser did roll call, he then moved on to grading his students' performances from the previous day. Most of the class's performances were subpar to acceptable according to Eraser, and he came down particularly hard on a few people. Todoroki, whilst your actions during the exercise did net your team the victory, they were reckless and needlessly destructive. Also, you completely neglected the whole team aspect of the team exercise. Eraser stated, only getting a huff of annoyed acceptance from the icy student. Bakugo, you were directly informed that your attack could have killed someone, and yet you went ahead with it anyway. I believe your response was, he'll be fine if he dodges. Those are not hero words. Report to Hound Dog for mandatory anger therapy immediately during your off hours. Failure to do so will result in expulsion. Am I clear? Eraser stated as he threatened the blonde. Bakugo immediately looked as though he was going to throw a fit, but a quirk-powered stare from Eraser shut him down and forced him to accept the consequences of his actions. Lastly, Mineta, you did absolutely nothing during your team up with Miss Yaoyorozu other than ogle her and drool. Shape up and grow up, or I'll have you expelled and arrested for SXL harassment. Am I clear? Eraser stated with a tone of anger, causing the purple-haired boy to speak in fear and nod his head. However, Aizawa did have a few nice things to say. Speaking of, Yaoyorozu, despite being partnered with Deadweight, your performance was admirable, and you showed real creativity with your quirk. Eraser complimented as Yaoyorozu beamed and Mineta floundered. And Midoriya, your performance was also impressive. You showed planning skills, leadership, and technique. But remember, you can't do everything yourself. Eraser stated. After all the critiques were done with homeroom, still had 26 minutes left. Eraser just told his students to do whatever they wanted to and to be quiet about it. Bonfire Izuku's hand shot up. What is it, Midoriya? Eraser lazily asked, hoping to not get another verbal beatdown from the problem child. I actually have something for all my classmates, sir. Would you mind if I pass them out? Izuku asked trepidatiously. So long as it's not party streamers and maracas, it's fine. Eraser replied as he zipped himself into his sleeping bag. Izuku then unzipped his backpack and pulled out a rather chunky folder labeled Hero Almanac, Classmates Edition. He then began pulling out sections of the folder and handing them out to his classmates. Midoriya bro, what's this? Kirishima asked. Ash sifted through the notes on muscle building. A comprehensive breakdown of your quirks, skills, and fighting capabilities, along with a list of recommendations for suit alteration and skills to focus on. They're only suggestions, but I believe you'll all find them useful. Izuku explained as he placed one on Bakugo's desk, which the blonde immediately incinerated with an explosion. Jesus dude, this is a lot to take in. Kaminari stated as he read a section on conductive weaponry. You wrote all this just from watching us yesterday, how? Sue asked bluntly, looking at a section on frog abilities found in nature. I've always had an intuitive aptitude for analysis. It was a backup plan if for whatever reason I couldn't be a hero. Izuku replied as he finished handing out the notes. Midoriya, this is impressive to say the least. Yaoyorozu pointed out as she read a section on quirk, clothing, and flexible computers that interested her. Yaoyorozu is correct. This is highly valuable information, Midoriya. I thank you for it. Ida stated stiffly as he read up on the difference between enhanced speed and enhanced running. Midoriya simply smiled. At last he had actual friends. Lunchroom. Later on, after a few lectures, the class all made their way to the lunchroom and sat down in their now assorted friend groups. All except for Bakugo and Todoroki, who elected to sit alone and brood with an air of antisocialism around them. As they all enjoyed lunch, Rush's cuisine conversation on various topics naturally cropped up, but then the main question got brought up. So, why'd you guys decide to become heroes? Izuku asked, catching everyone's attention, causing them all to recall the stories that caused them to want his life. I was inspired by my brother, who is the pro hero. Ida stated, only to be interrupted. Ingenium, I thought as much, seeing as you look exactly like him, Ida. Izuku states, causing Mina to look up the pro hero without his iconic helmet on to make the comparison. Oh my god, it's like comparing clones to one another. Hagakure states as Mina holds her phone next to Ida's face, and the group chuckled. Guess that explains Ida's attitude towards being a hero. Stiffness is in his BLD Zero, quipped, getting a few chuckles. Actually, my brother is my opposite, is every way. Ida replies to the confusion to everyone. Maybe it was your schools then. Kaminari replied. What about you, Cheiko? Why'd you want to be a hero? Mina asked as Eureka immediately looked uncomfortable. Promise you won't think less of me. She asks, worrying her friends, especially Izuku. I'm in it for the money. She pries as she hides her face in shame. The money? Sue asks, confused. My parents run a construction company in Mia, and we're practically broke. I wanted to make money so I can give them a comfortable life. She explains, regaining her friend's confidence. What an admirable thing to do, Eureka. Truly a worthy goal. Ida states kindly. I agree. Needing stable income doesn't make you a bad person. Hell, everyone needs to eat. And if you save people's lives whilst doing it, then it's a win-win. Izuku explains, thankful his first real friend wasn't some glory and riches-obsessed fake, like some many heroes from his old world. Manly speech, Midoriya bro. Kirishima exclaimed as Eureka blushes, happy her friends didn't think less of her. And what about you, Midoriya? Why'd you want to be a hero? Mina asks, which got everyone's attention. Because people like me need a hero they can relate to. He states bluntly. Don't get me wrong, All Might's a fantastic hero, but his quirk making him nearly invincible is hard to relate to. I want to be a symbol of hope for people with weak quirks, or those who have no quirks at all, especially with All Might slowing down recently. Izuku explains to his enraptured classmates. So freaking manly, Kirishima exclaims, and everyone agreed. I agree with Kirishima. You are on the path of a truly admirable goal, Midoriya. My respect for you has deepened. Ida exclaimed. Wait, what do you mean by All Might slowing down recently? Mineta asked fearfully. Well, you see. Izuku began to reply only to be interrupted by a blaring noise. Alert, alert. Intruder on premises. All students make your way to the safe rooms. Alert, alert. The intercom blared, causing a stampede of students. Immediately everyone in 1A were squashed upon against one another, trying to leave the lunchroom. But more than that, Izuku could SNES that same killing intent that guy had outside. Yamamo, I need a megaphone stat. Izuku shouted using the nickname Mina gave Momo. Momo immediately did as he requested and created megaphone before tossing it to him. Izuku then used it to get the situation under control. After scolding his fellow students and helping Hagakure, who'd nearly been trampled, he raced to the source of the killing intent, All Might's office, only to see something he thought this world didn't have, a hyperspace gate. The gate closed soon after he arrived. Eraser then showed up and demanded an explanation. I'll give you one, sir, but I also need to tell Nizu. Izuku states, and Eraser agreed. Nizu's office. As soon as Izuku entered and sat down, he explained why he was at All Might's office and what occurred at the gate that morning. So to recap, you sensed this guy's killing intent, as you call it, which is a skill, not a quirk. You thought you'd scared him off with your own, and now this guy has destroyed the main gate, somehow used a portal to steal something from All Might's office. Does that about cover it? Aizawa summarizes with an exhausted tone as Nizu simply listened. That's about the size of it, sir. Izuku replies. Well then, young Midoriya, whilst I am certainly happy that you didn't cause a scene this morning, I am disappointed that you didn't tell us about it, so we could send some staff to ensure this individual had fully vacated the premises. Nizu states in an unreadable tone. I'm sorry, sir. I just thought he was some disturbed punk with an axe to grind or something. I didn't think he'd actually have the resolve to return and actually break in. Izuku explained. And for that reason you won't be punished for withholding the information. However, in the future please tell Eraserhead or any of the other staff if you sense something like that again. Nizu explains to Izuku's relief. Thank you, sir. I won't make this mistake again. Izuku replies. Good. You are dismissed now. Please return to your classmates. Nizu states, causing Izuku to leave the room only for Eraser to stop him. Hold on, Midoriya. Before you leave, what does this killing intent aura of yours feel like? Just so we can get an understanding of what this guy had to endure and power through. Eraser requests. Okay, prepare yourselves. It's not going to be a pleasant feeling. Izuku responded before releasing his aura. Immediately the room's atmosphere felt heavy, and both teachers found difficult to breathe. Eraser felt like an ant looking at a boot that could squash him at any moment, whilst Nizu's hair stood on end as his animal instincts told him he was in the presence of an apex predator and that he needed to run. The whole experience lasted on around 10 seconds, but both teachers felt as though their lifespans had been considerably shortened. Recovering quickly, Eraser spoke first. You can go now, Midoriya. Eraser stated, letting the young man leave. As Izuku left the room, both teachers let out a huge sigh of relief. Jesus Christ, that was awful. Eraser admitted as he wiped sweat from his brow. Agreed, though it has given us insight into the mind of the person we're dealing with. Nizu stated as he shakily raised his teacup to take a relaxing sip. Speaking of which, what are we going to do about the break-in? Eraser asked. I have a plan for that. Please call the other teacher to the conference room. Nizu replied as he sipped his tea again. 1A classroom. 2 days later. After 2 days, the tension around the break-in had died down. Turned out that the gate had crumbled under the press pushing on it, which set off the alarm. Well, that was the official story anyway. Moving past that, after morning roll call concluded, Eraser gave them an assignment. Pick class representatives. Immediately people stated trying to make cases for themselves being representative. Ida promised DSBLN. Kirishima promised manliness. Mineta promised shorted skirts and got smacked for it. and Bakugo threatened everyone with violence if they didn't pick him. Then, finally, Ochako piped up and suggested they vote for one another. And whilst Tsu countered the idea with the fact they barely knew one another, it was agreed that the class would vote for their representatives. However, Izuku immediately bowed out, which left 19 candidates. In the end, the representatives we revealed to be Momo and Ida. Momo simply thanked her classmates for this faith in her, whilst Ida went on a long and boring speech about responsibility for the remains time they had in homeroom. After that, they all left for their lectures, only to find themselves back at the classroom at midday for heroics class. Aizawa explained that they'd be doing rescue training today, and that they'd to choose whether or not to wear their costumes. Bus ride to the USJ. Having all chosen to don their costumes again, the class made their way to the location Aizawa specified, a bus station. Apparently, the USJ was 5 kilometers away, and the university wasn't cruel enough to make them walk it. Ida tired to enforce a type of seating arrangement only to realize the bus didn't need one. He was comforted but then told to get on the bus as he was staying in the doorway. On this way there, the students conversed with one another, initially talking about who'd be popular as a hero. It was generally agreed that people like Bakugo and Todoroki, despite their power, wouldn't be popular due to their attitudes. In response, Bakugo threatened the class, whilst Todoroki brooded in the corner. The conversation then shifted to quirks and what the class thought of their own abilities. Most were well-spirited except for Hagakure, who lamented her permanent invisibility, and Kirishima, who thought his quirk wasn't flashy enough. Izuku immediately countered them both, stating that Hagakure didn't need to be seen to be appealing, causing her blush, though no one saw it. He then told Kirishima not to worry and compared his quirk to All Might's string, that both quirk work similarly by making the user strong and resilient, and that Kirishima just needed to train more, which he was met with more manly praise from the redhead. However, bring up All Might caused Tsu to remember something and ask a rather heavy question. So Midoriya, 2 days ago at lunch you were talking about All Might slowing down, and we got interrupted before you could explain it. Tsu stated, catching the entire bus's attention. Even Bakugo and Todoroki looked at him. Alright, I did say that. Yeah, I'll explain. You see, over the last 5 years, All Might has been showing up less and less daily. He's gone from a constant presence to a rare occurrence. Izuku states as he pulled out his hero's almanac from somewhere and showed his class a graph of All Might's appearances over the course of 10 years. As you can see, he's gone from being constantly seen in public up until 5 years ago, when he began to drastically rare to see in public. Izuku explained, which scared his classmates. Wait, what does this mean then? Mina asked fearfully. It means that, like all of us, he's getting older. According to my estimations, he's in his mid to late 50s, which is practically ancient, seeing as most heroes retire in their early TI mid-40s. He's been heroing 10 years longer than any other hero on record. Izuku comprehensively explains. Wait a minute, that means that eventually he's going to retire soon, right? Then what's to stop all the other villains from coming out of hiding and trying to kill us? Mineta asked in a mortified tone, nearly crying at the thought of it. We are what will stop them. All Might may have been a pillar of peace for over 30 years, but a single pillar cannot hold up a county all alone. When he retires, it's our turn to keep this country safe. Izuku states valiantly. Manly dude. Kirishima stated enthusiastically. Midoriya is right, everyone. When the older generation retires, it'll be our turn to step up and protect this country and its people. Ida states robotically as he chops his arm, and the rest of the class agreed. Meanwhile, Aizawa listened intently to the conversation. You have no idea how right you are, Midoriya. I just hope I can train you all enough to survive the days after that buffoon retires. Aizawa thinks to himself as he continues to drive the bus, not knowing the road that lay ahead. USJ entrance. When the class arrives, they couldn't help but gawk at the sheer size of the USJ. The enormous dome structure was imposing and a little intimidating. Just how big is UA's budget? They all think to themselves. Admiring my pride and joy, a voice asked from out of sight. When they looked towards the voice, Yururika immediately recognized them. Oh my god, it's 13, they're my favorite hero. She cries out as he tackles the poofy hero in a hug. This trading ground was designed by yours truly to test your heroic nature and tactical thinking. I call it the unforeseen simulation joint. 13 explained as they attempted to pry Yururika off themselves. After the combined effects of 13, Eraser, Shoji, and Kirishima pried the brunette from the hero. The class all entered the USJ and marveled at its sheer multifaceted nature. As the students entered, however, 13 and Eraser moves to the side to discuss their missing instructor. 13, where the hell is All Might? Eraser whispered angrily. He got caught up in over a dozen incidents this morning. It was all over the news. He's exhausted himself entirely and is currently resting in the break room. But he did say he may be able to attend the latter half of the class if he doesn't do anything strenuous. 13 explained in a hushed tone. That man is absolute height of irrationality. The entire point of him coming along was if anything pertaining to the break in 2 days ago. Damn it. No point in wasting time. We'll begin without him and hope everything goes well. Eraser replies as the two instructors follow their students. All right, everyone, eyes on me. Now before we begin, I have 1 or 2, or 3, maybe 4, perhaps 5, or 6 things I need to say before we get started. 13 states as they point their fingers to remember everything they wanted to get through, much to the amusement of the students. During your battle training, you learned how to fight with your quirks. Now you'll learn how to do so safely. My power is capable of saving many lives. But it would also be incredibly, frustratingly easy to use it to kill someone with it. 13 stated, putting a damper on the excited mood of the students and causing them to pay closer attention, except Bakugo. As 13 explains the dangers of their quirks and the potential damage they could cause, Izuku thought of his whirlwind iron cutting fist technique and how it could easily kill someone if used correctly. He also weathered the memory of the abilities God gave him as Garou, like the nuclear fission fist, and though he may not know how to do that anymore, didn't make it any less dangerous. Suddenly, in the middle of 13's explanation, the lights covering the dome began to flicker randomly. Everyone looked around in confusion at the strange happenings. Kaminari, a user of electricity, blinked and tilted his head at the pattern of the lights. He recognized the signs of electrical fluctuations due to practicing with his quirk growing up. What the heck's going on? Aizawa demanded as he took charge of the situation, as his students were his primary concern in the event anything that happened. Something must have gone wrong with the power? 13 surmised as they gazed up at the fluctuating lights. Suddenly a black, smoke-like hole tinged with dark purple had formed in the center of the USJ's plaza. 2 oddly glowing yellow eyes appeared within and seemed to glare at the surroundings. The smoky mass then expanded outwards, swirling wider and wider before a hand emerged from within. Another hand emerged to join the first, almost like something or someone was pulling back curtains. What emerged was a man's head, but there was nothing normal about it at all. He had what appeared to be severed, dismembered hands covering his body, on his arms, around his neck, and even on the front and back of his head. The one on his face was acting as a macabre perversion of a mask. Between the fingers of the hand mask, a demented red eye glared hatefully at them all. Izuku immediately recognized the man covered in hands, as he had the same aura of killing intent as the guy from the gate a few days ago. This isn't part of the class, right? Kirishima asked as a large number of people exited from the smoke-like portal. No, certainly not. Those are actual villains, Aizawa stated with a tone of dead seriousness. What? No way. Why would villains break into UA of all places, where every teacher is a professional hero? This doesn't make any sense. Mineta cried out in utter panic. Immediately, Eraserhead took command. He had Kaminari attempt to use his radio, but to no avail, as the student threw his radio from his ears when all he got was ear-piercing static. As the other students looked on fear, they saw as the portal widened even further to allow a large mass through. That mass was a near 9-foot-tall monster, with oily black skin covered in scar tissue, an exposed brain, dead eyes, and beak laden with sharp teeth. Then, suddenly the portal just closed up, but soon reappeared. This is a surprise. A mysterious voice stated from the group's left. They all looked to see that the smoke had moved and was now right next to them, glaring down at them. The schedule we stole said All Might, 13, Eraserhead, and Class 1A would be here. So where is the number 1? The black smoke asked as he scanned the group with his haunting eyes. 13 gets the students to safety now? Eraser cried out as he jumped at the smoke, only to be enveloped in it and dropped in the plaza amidst the villains. Now that he's out of the way, good afternoon, hero students. My name is Kurojiri, and we are the League of Villains. I hope you'll forgive the audacity of what I'm about to say, but we are here today with a declaration of war. Hirojiri stated with a courteous and polite tone that somewhat caught the students off guard, but they certainly didn't lower it. To that end, we have come to this bastion of heroism for a single purpose: to kill the symbol of peace along with an entire class of aspiring heroes. Guess what role you'll be playing? MHMHMH. The villain explained with a muffled laugh to the undisguised fear of the class as he began to truly laugh. Ahaha. So, this was the end of part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.